There we go. I can hear you.
What's up, bro? How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How about you?
I'm doing good, dude. I'm excited.
Love it, bro. I'm very excited as well. I see two Ryans though.
There's two. You see two of me?
Yes.
I don't know why that is.
Let me wait. Give me a second. Let me see if I can. There we go. There we go.
We got it. We're fixed.
Yes.
Beautiful, bro. Okay,
Ryan,
which is better? Which is better? Like this,
that's way
or
better.
this is way better? Okay, wait,
Yeah.
let's see which.
Whatever's comfortable for you, but I mean, for clipping and everything, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be really good.
Okay, sweet,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Ryan,
Yeah, that's great with me. Wait,
welcome to
one
the
sec.
show.
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing very good. I'm very
Let's
excited.
go.
Just got done with a little bit of breath work to get this rolling.
Fantastic. What type of breath work are you doing?
So I did the it's a 4 seconds inhale through the mouth and nose, 2 second exhale through the nose, through the mouth. Quick. 50 of those is like a pre-podcast um, focus stack.
Nice. Let me move right now. I have a dog screaming behind me, so
No worries.
I'm gonna move to a quieter spot here.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
don't want we gotta get all
Is
the
that is
best
that,
for the pod.
is that yours?
No, no, I wish. Two, should be good here for the most part. One second. Let me. We're gonna move inside. We can't
Yeah, of course.
cruise it today.
You can't what?
Here we go. All right. We should be good to go in here. One second. All right. Not as fun as being outside, but
Mm-hmm.
we're here. We're
Perfect.
here in the flesh. All
Lovely,
right, bro.
bro. Where are you right now?
I'm in Miami, Florida.
Ah, beautiful. You from there? You live there?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I go kind of between New Jersey and Miami, but for the most part nowadays New Jersey. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, always a treat though, being in the warm weather. It's funny how
Yeah.
much warm weather and just improves your quality of life and the stuff that you're doing. Like, it's just a healthier way of life.
Absolutely. The high UV, the sand. No?
It's
Unbeatable.
amazing, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Unbeatable.
Yeah.
Unbeatable for
What
sure.
What were you up to today?
Not too much. We went for a long, like a 5 mile walk jog type of thing, getting in
Oh
the
wow.
sunlight, and then
Mm-hmm.
just did a little bit of work, hung out, and here we are. Looking forward to this.
Oh, love it, dude. I am so hyped to have you on the show.
Thank you, bro. I'm excited to be here.
So, bro, let's get started.
Let's do it.
Um, so quickly, a little bit for the listeners who don't know who Ryan Ayala is, even though they should know. Who are you? You know, what do you do? What are you doing? And a little bit on like why are you doing what you're doing, right? Like what got you to where you are today.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here. Appreciate you organizing this and making it happen. Who am I? So I guess so. On one hand, I'm like a podcaster, business owner, super into the world of health and exploring the nuances of it. But I guess more than anything, I'm just curious, and curious particularly on like what makes a good life and what the balance of focusing on health, focusing on enjoying life, and all those little things, what that might look like. So really, just kind of curious and um, looking to looking to try to figure out what makes a good life. And um, on one hand, I explore that through the podcast, and on the other
Mm-hmm.
hand, I kind of explore that through owning a business and the purpose and meaning that kind of gives into your life. So those are mainly the two things that I focus on: is growing the business and growing the podcast.
Is the business you're talking about Labify?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Well, on what you just touched on, what do you think? Well, with what you know now and what you lived through, what makes a good life?
Mm, I think it's a combination of, I think it's something you're having something you're excited to work hard for sure.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
I think, we have this view of success or retirement as like martinis on the beach, or like just just chilling on a beach
Yeah.
and not not working too hard on anything and just kind
Hmm.
of enjoying life. But in reality, like after a month, that becomes a bit miserable, and
Hmm.
it's really about finding those things that are very enjoyable to you, but still are, but kind of look like work to other people. Um, and so,
Mm.
from my experience, like those things that you have to work really hard for, but they feel more like play to you than work. Those things have been the things that have given me the most purpose and meaning.
Make it feel like play. Make it like, oh man, there's a word for it. Like effortless,
Hmm.
kind of. You know?
Totally, yeah. Like the effortless action. It's like in the Taoist philosophy, it's like the concept of Wu Wei, which is translates to effortless action, um, which is kind of just that. It's like when the go with the flow is the flow
Mm.
that you actually want to go with. Like it's like
That's good.
it's um it's this beautiful combination of what you want to do and what you have to do. And I think
Hmm.
when the more those two things are aligned, the happier you're going to be.
I
At least
love
from
that.
my limited
Yeah.
experience.
Well, how did you figure that out yourself?
So I think the main thing was I played baseball my whole life, and when I was in college, I got hurt and didn't really know what to do with myself because it was the first time in my life where I was just like, all right, like I have all this time, like all my time had always gone to baseball,
Yeah.
um, and in and then quitting baseball and in learning about kind of what I should fill my time up um, with time and with looking into like podcast, like with reading and learning and trying to figure things out. Like I came to realize that like I really missed baseball, or on the
Mm.
surface I really missed baseball. But once I found podcasting, I really realized it wasn't that I missed baseball, it's I missed something I was excited to work hard for.
Right.
And I just liked having the vehicle of baseball to
Okay.
guide me there. So really, it was the transition away from baseball and into podcasting that made me realize that like the meaning that you have found in your life has came from having things you're excited to work hard for.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about the Alchemist Library, your pod.
Yeah.
Why does it exist? Why is it here?
Um, Dude, totally. It's a selfish thing. Its existence and its meaning solely stem from the enjoyment I have from the conversations, and
I love that. Yeah.
it's really it's an interesting thing. It's like it's such a selfish pursuit on one hand. Like I do it for me because I love having these conversations and I love talking to people that are smarter than myself, and then um, it's interesting how it seems so selfish to you, but then you get people reach out to you and say how much they love
Exactly.
the show and how
Yeah.
much they've learned from you and this, that, and the other. And it's like, although you did it super selfishly, in the end, it ended up being a very selfless act. And it's almost like the Jordan Peterson analogy when he says, to save the world, start by cleaning your room,
Yeah.
because it's that exact thing. When you put yourself in order, you put yourself in such a great place to help others. So the podcast exists for selfish reasons, but from my experience, it's like those things that seem the most selfish oftentimes are the things that help the people around you.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say, like, I feel like it's almost not that selfish. And I think I see my favorite creators and artists, and their way of creation is exactly that.
Hmm.
Right. And it's when the best work of art is being created. And it's something that I've learned with my pod as well. after interviewing Jack Cruz, I understood that the way I needed to go with my episodes had to be in a way that I wanted to create for my liking. Yes, I want the listener to learn. I want the listener to feel. But I think that is like the best way to create.
Why
And
was
you're
it the
living
Jack
it
Cruz episode that made you learn
because
that?
yeah, I was so nervous during that episode. I think I choked over like 30 times, and it was one because he was a little bit of an asshole, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And two, because the questions that I designed were not super in my interest. There were, what do I want people to know about Jack? Which is yes, but I had so many questions that I created for myself that I did not ask. Most of them I did not ask because I was afraid of not only his opinion of the question, but everyone else's understanding of the question. And I understood from there that I had to continue a different way.
Yeah, I mean it's a great lesson. It's something that we all kind of learn through doing things like this, right? It's like, I think Rick Rubin sums it up so beautifully.
Yeah.
When he talks about the audience kind of coming last and the best work stemming from the artist putting the art ahead of, and putting what they think the art should be ahead of what the audience thinks the art should be. And that's kind of the way to discover and to find like that thing, those things that like really speak to you. It's a beautiful analogy, and it's so cool to come to those things early on versus being years down the road and then realizing that you're living your life or doing these things for other people versus how you actually want to be doing things.
Yes, exactly. Ryan, I want to talk about like what's the mission behind your podcast? What are you trying to make happen, if that makes sense?
I don't know. I don't really know, to be honest with you. It's funny. It's like I try to stay a little disconnected from goals. I'm not like a very goal oriented person. I really like to just focus on the habits. And so with the podcast, it's like there's so many metrics and so many things that like I could be striving for. But in reality, if I like take that bullseye point of view and I think back on what I actually want to accomplish from it, it's really just have cool conversations with cool people and people that I never would have been able to talk to without the podcast. And I'm already accomplishing that, right? So my mission and my goal is something that I'm already accomplishing, and like the arbitrary metrics of views and subscribers and all those things, it's fun, but I just think that it would detract from the fun I'm having in doing the podcast and trying to produce the best quality show, because you can't control the views and the likes and the subscribers. All you can control is how you think the conversations go, and trying to make the best conversations possible. So when it comes to the goals, it's really just like, let's just try to create the best possible podcast and let the chips fall where they may, and control what you can control. And that core concept of stoicism is something I try to keep with me and keep in my back pocket, because it's just been very helpful in the sense of guiding me and giving me this direction of where I want to go.
Yeah, I love that. How do you approach your guests? What?
Can you repeat that? I lost you for a second.
Oh, how do you approach your guests?
How do I approach my guests?
Yes. What are you looking for in that conversation with your guest?
I think it depends. It's a lot of times it's just like, what am I curious about? I think that's a great like overarching question, is like, what what does this person know that I'm just fascinated by? I'm using
Wow.
that as my guiding sense of the direction I want the conversation to head in. And then um, I really like to not over prepare. I
Mhm.
find that over preparing tends to take me out of the moment.
Mhm.
Um, so honestly, like I'm on the spectrum of knowing my baseline and having the questions in front and having some topics in front of me, but
Yeah.
not knowing not doing like the most research ever,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just because it tends to take me out of the moment and it doesn't allow me to follow my natural curiosity. But um, yeah, I really just approach it by having a list of questions or a list of topics, I should say, and then um, starring things that I'm really fascinated by, and then letting my higher self kind of in the
Mm.
moment just guide myself
Yeah.
of what like lights me up when the person says something, and go with that and see where it takes me. And so far so good. I mean, it's a skill you get better at with time, and
Yeah.
it's so cool to see, right? It's a skill that transfers to almost everything in life. It's like your ability to communicate and keep a conversation going, and podcasting is just such a beautiful medium to get better at that skill.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was about to ask, like, how did you start to cultivate that? Um, yeah, I guess like skill. Did you always approach your guests like that, or was there a point where you learned?
I think it's like it's developed itself with time. I mean, I've definitely had some moments like you had with Jack Cruz where you feel like, I have this amazing guest in front of me and I just didn't get the best out of them.
Yeah.
And it's not a fun feeling, but it's one that you definitely learn from if you reflect on it correctly. And I think through that and through just time and just seeing what lights me up, you start to find those things for you. And um, it's interesting. Like you learn about like the art of conversation just like by watching YouTube videos and by doing the thing and
Mm-hmm.
trying to connect the dots. And um, I would say the biggest takeaways for me was one, just like most importantly is just be present. Like most of the time when you're just present in conversation, things take care of itself.
Of
And there's so
course.
many times where like you get kind of in your head and you're like, oh, do I talk about this? Do I talk about that? I don't know what to talk about next. Like, oh,
Yeah.
and you just like aren't even listening to what the person's saying. And when you're really
Mm-hmm.
listening to what they're saying and it allows you to let what's supposed to come up.
Mm,
And
that's special.
and
Yeah.
my favorite combination of this, right, is you just listen super intently. You don't really care, even think about what you're going to say next. But then in combination with that, you have revival questions in your back of your pocket, right? So I like to have about 3 or 4 questions that if when the guest finishes talking and I have no idea what to say, I can ask.
Yeah.
And these are questions like I kind of ask all my guests. So they give me the freedom to be super present in conversation because I
Mm-hmm.
know that if I just go blank and don't know what to say next,
You have that.
I have a few things in my back pocket. So it's like an insurance policy. Um, and like there are questions like what's one concept that's had the biggest impact on you? I love that one. I particularly love it as an opener of a podcast. um, what's the one concept or idea that's had the biggest impact on you? um, if you were to have a conversation with your 21-year-old self or you when you were getting started on this journey, like what would you talk about? um, and yeah, so like a few things kind of like that, or what do I need to know about you to make sense of the person you are today? um,
Mm-hmm.
those type of questions are really good to kind of have in your back pocket
Mm-hmm.
when things go a bit south. But like anything, it's just like a learning lesson. You start and you're not that good, and then you do 100 and you're a little bit better. And then you do 1,000 and you're a lot a bit better, and
Yeah.
it just goes up from there. And um, you look at like a Joe Rogan who's done 2,000 plus episodes, and it's like you can't help but be good by that time. It's like
Exactly.
um, it's just the reps at that point. So it's just a game of attrition, and you win by staying in the game.
Yeah.
And the longer you stay in the game, the better odds you have of having success. So if you're able to just stick with it, and have fun doing it, then you're giving yourself the best chance for success.
Yeah, I love that. I also have a couple questions for you at the end regarding those extra, what do you call them? Revival
Revival
questions?
questions, yeah,
Yes. I always have one or two, which I
yeah,
love
smart
as well.
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're so
but I'll
helpful.
I'll, I'll keep them at the end.
Cool, cool.
So I want to touch on another topic that we slightly mentioned at the start, which is Labify Health. I'm super intrigued. I'm super intrigued because I don't know much about lab work, so that's why I also want to talk to you about this. So, I mean, first of all, why did you even open Labify Health? What's the reason of its existence?
Yeah, so Labify is the in my mind, it's the world's most extensive, comprehensive, and personalized lab work company. Um, and I built it kind of out of like we were saying before, of like not necessity, but of wanting something like that for yourself.
Okay, yeah.
It was built for myself and for something that I wish I had. Because getting lab work isn't the easiest pursuit,
Yeah.
and the options for blood work are either super expensive, or they have um, you don't really get exactly what you want. You have to pick and choose. And then if you wanted to get like some of the functional medicine tests, like a stool test or a urine test or like this micronutrient test, all of these things are a bit harder to get. And
Hmm.
you almost like can't find them on the internet. You need to go through your doctor, but then your doctor um, won't give them to you because there's nothing like particularly wrong with you,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
warrant that. So I wanted to take all these tests that were very hard to get, and I wanted to take the traditional blood work um, that you can find on the internet, but they're just either too expensive or not comprehensive enough, and combine them together and do all these different panels based on people's needs. And um, it was like a 2 year journey to get to the point from idea um, to
Creation.
actually to
Yeah.
creation. Yeah, thank you. But here we are, and it's been very, very exciting. And lab work is something for me that's been incredibly helpful on this health journey. Like
Yeah.
I got into the world of health because I was having some skin issues,
Hmm.
and I didn't know what to do. I went to the dermatologist. The dermatologist told me that it's like autoimmune related, and there's nothing you can do, and it will only get worse with time. So that freaked me out to no end, and I didn't really know what to do in that moment. I didn't know what direction to turn in, or what I should even do about it. So I kind of froze and I did nothing for a while, and
Hmm.
then with time I started to learn about health and try to see. I started getting into stoicism a lot, like we talked about earlier, and that compass of controlling what you can control. And I realized
Yeah.
like I might not control, not might not be able to control my skin condition, but I could definitely control what goes into my body, which could
Mm.
have a big effect on it. So started trying to learn about diet, but there's just so much opinions out there and so many people who have different perspectives, right? Like you hear the carnivore people telling you that the carnivore diet is the best thing in the world, and then you have people telling you the paleo diet is the best
Yeah.
thing in the world, and the vegans telling you it's the best thing in the world. And you don't really know who to talk to or who to listen to, because
Right.
they all cite studies. They all sound very articulate. They
Hmm.
all make sense. All their arguments are comprehensive. So it kind of leaves you in this paralyzed state of like, what the hell do I do?
Right.
And um, I have found a ton of success from like a paleo-ish type of diet, just
Hmm.
mainly focusing, or like animal based, as most people call it now. Um, but but in terms of combining a diet like that, and then on top of it you do lab work, you're able to see like, one, is this diet even the diet I should be on. Like,
Right.
how is my blood work? Am I deficient in a bunch of nutrients? Is my inflammation through the wall? Is my gut health a mess? You could see all these things like through your blood work.
Hmm.
So if you are doing like a vegan diet, for example, and you have a gut that's in a mess, your inflammation markers are through the roof, you're super low in vitamin B12, although the person makes the best argument in the world, you could clearly see based on the N of
Right.
one data of yourself that like this isn't for me. And there's definitely like a lot of people can feel when they don't feel right, but pinpointing on like what that is exactly is next to impossible, because you could be deficient in like vitamin E, and vitamin E could be affecting your skin health, and your skin health could be affecting your sleep, and then your sleep could be affecting
Hmm.
your circadian rhythm, and then you're getting fat, and then this and that, and it's like this whole domino effect that could be um, simply just a vitamin deficiency that could have been pointed, or it could have been diagnosed or looked at on lab work a
Right.
long time ago, right? So for me, it's just been a way to get precise with my health, because there's so
Hmm.
many different differentiating opinions, and it's like, all right, let's just remove the biases by testing and
Right.
seeing like what looks good for you and what makes sense for you. So
Hmm.
um, it was something that really helped me find relief from the skin condition,
Hmm.
and really dial things in to know that what I'm doing is actually working. And from there, I wanted an option for myself and other people to do it easy and effectively, and that's where we came with Labify.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned the panels. I was looking through them. How did you develop those panels?
Um, so it was mainly like a lot of it was research. I
Hmm.
have to give it to this guy Dan Gardner, who is it's like a health coach, I guess would be his title, to professional athletes.
Hmm.
And he works with like the cream of the crop type of guys that are getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, like the top athletes in the world.
Hmm.
And his approach with them is like, let's take this, um, let's leave no rock unturned. So let's test everything and use that to guide exactly how we should be training and supplementing, etc. So I did this mentorship with him, and I saw exactly what he was testing his athletes, and he was very clear in terms of why he was testing what he was testing, and that really helped me determine what tests were worth pursuing, what companies were good. Like he was telling me when he first started testing stool tests for his athletes, like
Hmm.
to look into their gut and their microbiome, they would put the same stool sample into the same company into two different samples, and then both
Mm.
send them to the lab and see how the results would be different.
So
Um,
like two different panels, or
no, same panel, but just under two different names, from the same
with the
company to
same sample as well, right?
yeah, same sample, but it would just be like in half, one and one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that would be that was to measure like the room of error like between these companies, and like how
Wow.
much how much of what they were doing was like precise, and every single
Yeah.
time this is how it is, or how much the room for error was there. um, and he would do that with all these different tests and blood work and all these different companies to rule what was the cream of the crop and what was these top companies.
Hmm.
um, so that was the guiding principle in terms of like what companies to use for Labify,
Right.
because it was those companies that were the ones that had the same exact results no matter what the sample was. And Genova Diagnostics is one of them.
Hmm.
They're a company that's like time and time again always very precise. Um, so that was one guiding light, and the second guiding light was just research, and looking at like what type of lab work makes sense for this type of person, and
Right.
talking to functional medicine type of doctors who are using this type of testing in their practices, seeing what things they have used and make sense, and kind of putting together that research of going and talking with these doctors and seeing
Hmm.
what is most helpful for what people, was helpful for the development of each of the panels.
Right. So how does one or how do right how does one understand what panel to choose?
So it really, it's like, if you're healthy and
Mm-hmm.
you're a person who's just curious,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to go crazy with it. You don't need to test everything
Mm-hmm.
and spend thousands of dollars on lab work. But um, from my experience, a lot of it for me, like if you are already healthy, there's the general markers that are in every single panel that you'll find, which
Mm-hmm.
are like the big ones that you definitely want to be testing for, which would be like your lipid panel, like a comprehensive um, uh, metabolic panel,
Right.
and like some inflammation markers, these like basic things that aren't very expensive.
Okay.
And then the rest of it is kind of like, what are you curious about, right? Like, so um, you could spend $150 on lab work and get everything you would kind of need. But then there's all the fun stuff that if you really want to peel the layers and see, that are very seductive because they're fun and they're cool to look at. Like, for example, like micronutrients are just
Mm-hmm.
like, they're so interesting and they're so simple and easy to read, that it's like they're so it's a fun one to test. Like your stool sample is a fun one
Mm-hmm.
to test because you're able to see how your gut health is, and
I should
what you need to be
take one.
doing more of and less of and all that stuff. But
Right.
at the end of the day, it's like the simple blood work is king, and those are the things that are really going to be a good checkup marker for you. And then all the rest of the stuff is really just, if you're healthy, it's really just to get more precise on what you should be supplementing with and where you may be
Right.
deficient in.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're unhealthy, those are a really great place to start in terms of um, kind of just singing the song of
Mm-hmm.
what could be going on. Because a lot of times when you look at the blood work or look at the lab work in general, if you have enough markers, they kind of just sing a song. Like you start to see the dots connect,
Mm.
and you're
Okay.
like, oh shit, so I was experiencing this because of that, because of this I've been experiencing that. Like, all these things, they're all connected, and
Okay.
it's really cool when you're able to test enough markers to see uh, those dots connect. It's really cool to see. But for most people that are healthy, it's like you don't really need to be testing everything all the time.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
But it does provide a very fun way to optimize your health and
Mm-hmm.
to go a step further.
To optimize your health and kind of like further understand
Yeah,
yourself,
exactly.
right?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. It's
Talking
so
about
interesting.
no, yeah. Talking about deficiencies, what are folks usually very deficient on that is like
Hmm.
the most overlooked deficiency? It's like the less taken care of
Hmm.
and affects kind of the most of your well-being.
Um, okay, so this one's interesting. The first one I'm gonna say, I'll give you three.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
so first one is magnesium.
Yeah.
This isn't a great marker to test for in lab work because for it to flag as being low on lab work, that means like it's very, very, very low, like dangerously low.
Wow, okay.
Because the body is going to do everything it can to keep magnesium high um, in the blood, to because it's necessary. It's so necessary for life. Um, but in just the effect that I've seen magnesium have on people that I've worked with, and on friends and family who are dealing with things from like depression, anxiety to like gut issues.
Yeah.
It's very wide
Huh.
ranging in the
That is so
positive effect
crazy
that's had.
how like
Yeah,
a
it's so
deficiency from
crazy.
magnesium goes from A to Z.
Yup, and it's so wide ranging. I think it's that we don't even know how many functions in the body it's uh, a part of. I mean, I think it was estimated at one point at like 300, and then they're like, no, 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 it's like 600, and we don't really know
Yeah.
exactly how many functions magnesium is responsible or a part of. And then with diminishing soil quality, it's just getting harder and harder to get adequate magnesium from your diet alone. Um, so that's one thing that I'm seeing time and time again has had such a great impact on people. It's not a marker that really shows up well in lab work, but just in terms of supplementing with it, it's so safe and has proven to be super effective from my view of things. And so, second one I will say is vitamin B1, and
B1.
this B1, so
Okay.
thiamine. So this is one that I see a lot of times. So we have a test that we sell at Labify called Metabolomics, and
Okay.
it's this awesome test that tests for organic acids. It tests for toxin exposure, for micronutrients, for inflammation, for gut health. It's like this real wide ranging test. It's really really cool, super fascinating on the insights that it shows you. But I was just looking at this individual's results the other day, and it was like I'm looking at all the markers that are out of range, and they are very low in vitamin B1, right? So then um, I take note of that. I'm looking through all the other markers and doing research and looking at the things that are responsible for that um, marker to work properly, right? Things like beta alanine um, was one of them, and I'm looking and I'm seeing that vitamin B1 is required for every single one of these functions.
Mm.
So almost, I think it was of the markers um, that they were deficient in. Um, Almost all of them, besides for one, stemmed from inadequate vitamin B1.
Wow.
And if you
We're
look at like the ways to get vitamin B1 in diet, it's like the best one is pork.
okay.
And outside of pork, it's like there's not that many good options
Oh
to get
shit.
adequate V1. So it's
Okay.
like, oh shit, that's one that I've seen in almost everyone that's taken the metabolomics test is like inadequate B1. And um, it's responsible for like uh, metabolism of carbohydrates and like energy production. And there's a ton of really cool things. And from my experience, it seems like people who have then taken vitamin D1 after getting their results have had a very positive effect.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. With my conversation with Chris Botzas,
mhm.
the only supplement he said that I should like start experimenting with was vitamin B1.
It's fascinating, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's so interesting, and it's water soluble, so it's not a big high. It's not a high risk supplement. It's pretty
Okay.
safe, so you don't have to worry too much about the safety profile of it. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a fascinating one. And then the third one I would say, and this is kind of a cop out answer, but it's a high quality multivitamin. Um,
Okay.
because
I
if
saw your
you,
tweet on that.
yeah, I talked about it the other day slightly, but it's like we're having these, our soil quality is diminishing every single day. And if you look at the amount of vitamin C it would take from um, that you would get from an orange that your grandpa used to have, to
Mm-hmm.
get that same amount of vitamin C, you would need to consume 4 oranges today. So just across the board, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what it is, it's like it's just so much harder for us to get adequate nutrients than our grandparents' generation.
Yeah.
And um,
That's crazy to
it's
me.
crazy. And like unless you're super dialed in, you're going to be deficient in a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of different things, right? Um, So to me, I think it's the one that's like the best bang for the buck for a lot of people. And the more people's micronutrient tests I see, the more it just makes sense. I'm like, there's a bunch of things that are out of range here, but
Right.
don't freak out because they all just stem from not getting enough vitamins. And
Right.
so having like a really high quality multivitamin, especially for athletes, I think is super important because the demand on the body for an athlete is just so much higher,
Okay.
and they're running through so many more vitamins, especially
Of
B
course.
vitamins than the average person. Like if you're training hard in the gym, um, you're going to deplete, especially vitamin B1 too, a lot of
Why is
your.
that? Why are we using more B vitamins?
It's just crucial in energy production. So
Okay.
when you're using all the energy for the gym and in trying to lift weights, it's just depleting these vitamins because they're
Right. Right.
necessary for that energy to function.
Okay.
Um, so like even athletes who like consume a ton of red meat and uh, vitamin B rich foods, it's like if they're training super hard, their
Hmm.
body just like can't get enough of it.
Wow.
So a lot of times like a B complex is a great option.
Hmm.
But just across the board, like a nice multivitamin that's super high quality. Thorn makes a great one. Pure Encapsulations makes a really good one. Um, I think more dates. Derek
Really?
just came out with a new one,
Hmm.
and I haven't looked into it myself, but I have a friend who is very well versed in the health stuff and spoke very highly of it as well. So um, yeah, just a high quality multivitamin if you're an
Hmm.
individual who isn't tracking everything and isn't making sure that you're getting every single micronutrient under the sun, because they're just responsible for everything. And
Hmm.
getting enough of them, I think, will make a incredible impact on your health. And it's just such a simple switch to make that can have an outsized return.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into B1. Is there there's no cycling to like vitamin B1, right?
No, I mean, I think it's safe to cycle all supplements.
Oh,
But I don't think it's too necessary. It depends on the dose you're taking. A lot of people take like a mega dose of vitamin B1.
okay.
I don't know too much about that. I know there is a time and place where that makes a lot of sense for, but
Okay.
I'm not incredibly well versed on that. But since it's water soluble, your body does a really good job of getting rid of the excess vitamins that
Okay.
it doesn't need.
Okay.
So you're good for the most part, but like everything, to be safe, it makes the
Hmm.
most sense to cycle it.
Cycle. Perfect. Talking about like
Excuse me.
supplementing magnesium.
Hmm.
This is something that I just read everywhere on everyone's approach on like their way to supplement magnesium. Could you explain? Because I have this question uh to me a lot, which is like, what's the difference between all of the different magnesiums, right? Your
Mm,
glycinate, your citrate, your whatever, 3 and 8. Can you
yep.
explain maybe to the listeners who have no clue? I still don't know like the difference between all of these magnesiums and also like your approach to supplementing magnesium.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is when it comes to the different types of magnesium
Mhm.
is how you respond to them, right?
Okay.
Because if you look at like a lot of the magnesiums, they're like magnesium citrate is a good example of this.
Mhm.
It's a pretty common form. It's like the cheapest form,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it's gonna magnesium speeds up the gut,
Right.
and um, certain types of magnesium are going to make you are not going to be the easiest on your stomach.
I, I,
And so
I laugh because I just discovered I was kind of like overdosing on magnesium recently,
well,
and
so
because of that,
it's the type of magnesium, right? So
yeah.
a lot of them, because of how they're metabolized, tend to speed up digestion a lot,
Hmm.
and not always the most fun thing, right? Uh, so different magnesiums affect you differently, and then there's some um, that have different purposes in the sense of like they say magnesium threonate
Mm-hmm.
crosses the blood-brain barrier pretty
Right.
well, and so that will make you feel a little more relaxed because the magnesium is getting to your brain better versus like a magnesium glycinate, which you isn't going to cross the blood brain barrier as well, but that's going to do a really good job of not like freaking out your gut and not
Mm-hmm.
speeding things up too
Mm-hmm.
much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not incredibly well versed on like the specifics of why one causes uh, why one causes why one is able to cross the blood brain barrier versus why the other one isn't.
Right.
Um, but for me, in my experience, I've had the best results from like a magnesium biglycinate,
Okay.
or a magnesium threonate, or a mag acetyl taurate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those three for me have been the ones that have gotten the best results from, and particularly in like relaxation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the magnesium threonate does a great job, um, but yeah, you have to be careful because you can
Yeah.
easily take a little too much, which is no fun for anybody.
Yeah. I was taking too much trace minerals, and they're high in
Mm.
magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I discovered that I was taking too much of these because of problems in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I've been using glycinate every night,
Mm-hmm.
almost every
Nice.
night, and it's really nice. I mean,
Yeah.
I can kind of tell the difference how I think like my body feels a little bit like more
Yeah.
loose.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much magnesium you were taking before that was causing you to
Uh,
have a little bit
a
of
lot of
issues?
trace mineral magnesium. Glycinate, I wasn't taking too much, probably like
Mm-hmm.
100 milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but trace mineral magnesium, way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, way too much, and
That's
especially
interesting.
kind of like the combination between both.
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah,
can imagine.
but
Um,
hey, um, experimenting and things like these are what teaches us what to do and what not to do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And
Yeah.
the body. Yeah. It's there's a lot of wisdom in the experimentation, and
Mm-hmm.
with the magnesium, it's great. I mean, the dosage that people take, it ranges so much. Like you hear someone like Grim Hood talk about taking like grams of magnesium, They- like like a lot of magnesium. Like you were
Yeah.
saying, like 100 milligrams. He's talking grams.
Yeah.
So like 10 times the dose, 20 times the dose that you're taking.
Yeah.
But it's like your body, like slowly with time, like learns, um, kind of learns how to operate with that. So you could slowly up the dose, um, and yeah, I take about like between like 400 to 800 milligrams,
Okay.
and that has tended to be the sweet spot for me where I get the maximum benefit without getting any GI distress.
Right. I have a question here again on magnesium. This was an experience last week. Some girl at the gym was talking to me that she wanted to look into like uh detoxing specifically heavy metals. I gave her
Mm-hmm.
the Shilajit plug, and I told her to
Mm-hmm.
change her pescatarian diet a little bit.
Yep.
And she shared this with me, which was really interesting. That she took her blood panels, and magnesium was extremely high. And I
Mm-hmm.
think her conclusion was that her body wasn't absorbing the magnesium too
Mm-hmm.
well, and that's why it showed as so high, right?
Interesting.
Is
Yeah.
there a problem with like absorbing magnesium?
Well, it's just there's so much nuance that could be going on there, especially in the state of high like heavy metals.
Okay,
Um,
so that
so a lot.
interferes with. the absorption.
Yeah. Yeah, well, not even absorption, but the body's trying to protect itself. So it's doing different
Okay.
things to protect itself. So
That is very interesting. Okay.
it's so interesting, right? So like, um, you take an example like low vitamin D. So if you like, if your body has a lot of heavy metals in it, even if you're getting the most sunlight in the world and you're mega dosing on vitamin D, your body's going to do everything it can to keep vitamin D as low as possible
Wow.
because or adequate vitamin D makes the heavy metals um, do more damage in your body.
Wow.
So your body's trying to protect itself by saying like, let's keep vitamin D low because we have these heavy metals and we don't
Wow.
want to mess ourselves up. So a lot of times it's like there's these things at play, and
Hmm.
the body's smart, and it's
Yeah.
keeping it's
Wow.
keeping things high for a reason or keeping things low for a reason. So in like the limited context, it's hard to say,
Hmm. Hmm.
but
Of course.
usually in something like that, it's just like a head scratcher. Like you're like, huh, no one really has like high magnesium for no
Hmm.
reason.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times it's like there's something going on within the body, and the body's using uh like holding on to the magnesium to like protect itself in a way, or
Wow.
something similar.
I'm gonna send her this podcast then.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really
look at it.
interesting.
Yeah, tell
Yeah.
her to look it up because there's some. I mean, it's hard to know in the context of
Yeah.
limited markers, but um, the more markers you have and the connection between heavy net metals and magnesium and all these different markers are it's a fascinating combination of things.
Right. Ryan, how, I mean, kind of talking about the kind of like the same topic and a little bit that you mentioned your autoimmune issues. Have you taken care of that, by the way?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is something that it's like obviously as you know and you hear through all these stories of people on the podcast, um it's not like the quickest journey in the world, but it's
Hmm.
something that like when you start to fix your diet,
Hmm.
you start to see right away. So um yeah, that's something that's is no longer really like an issue in my
Hmm.
life, and I'm incredibly grateful, and
Wow.
um I'm incredibly happy to say that, but a lot of it has just come from like healing the gut and returning back to a lifestyle that's a little more aligned with how we should be living things, eating foods, eating foods that are more natural, and getting rid of a lot of the more processed stuff, and just being in the sunlight and
Hmm.
reconnecting to nature and sleeping right and all these things that it's hard to point at which one in particular has the biggest
Right.
difference, but
Hmm.
when you put all those things together, it really helped to make it a non-issue nowadays.
Right. Yeah, I was about to ask, like, how are you approaching your own health? Three, like, physically, mentally,
Hmm.
and maybe spiritually.
Yeah, um, I think nowadays it's like for a while I was very almost neurotic with things because I felt like I needed to be because I was
Yeah.
trying to like heal this thing, and I was like I felt like I needed to be so exact and so on top of things, and now that I've built up a bit of resiliency just in the fact that I've been doing these things for a long time, and my gut's in a great place, my blood markers are good, and I feel like I don't have to be so neurotic when it
Perfect.
comes to my health.
Yeah.
So because of that, I really have just tried to not not let it dictate my life, and
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
not let it deter me from going and having a fun meal with friends or going out to dinner. So really, my
Mhm.
approach now is just controlling what you can control, and when I'm at home and um, I have the freedom to eat healthy and avoid seed oils, obviously I will. But when I'm out to eat and I'm with friends and just situations come up that I can't really control too much, I'm
Mhm.
not going to be the guy who's super freaked out about things.
Yeah.
So I can kind of flow with things a little more. And I would say that's my best example, or my best way to describe it is a bit more go with the flow, while at the same time, for the 90% of the time that I can control things, I'm controlling things, at least for the
Yeah,
most part.
beautiful. And I want to ask your question, which is, what's one concept with the biggest impact on you? And based on what I've learned from you in this podcast, I think it's that don't stress over the things you can't control, right?
Pretty damn close, I would say. I would say it's the obstacle. The obstacle is the way,
Yeah.
which is another core concept of Stoicism,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is just in my life the things the things that have presented itself as the biggest difficulty for me have been the things that have given me the most meaning and have allowed me to be the person I've become.
Mm.
So I think the obstacle being the way is something that has rang so true in my own life. And I think the fundamental understanding that it's through the bad that you get the best parts of yourself, um, really are something that I hold close to my heart.
Beautiful. And I want to ask you my question,
Yes, please
which
do.
is, what brings you most joy in life?
Um, like I would say family connection. I would say just connection, probably the word. Um, the connection, health. Um, it's hard to give just one because there's
Mm-hmm.
so many things in life that you hold
Yeah.
so dear to you. But um, I mean, without health, you can't do anything. But without connection, there
Mm-hmm.
isn't too many things. So I would say friends, family are probably the thing that gives me the biggest sense of joy.
Oh, that's beautiful, Ryan. Yeah, that's
What's
something
your
that
answer to that? What's your answer to that?
what's my answer to that? Um, I like to spend time with myself a lot.
Mm,
I also love to speak with people. I mean,
hmm.
there's that duality
Yeah, that's a funny
where
duality.
I like to spend a lot of time with myself, speaking to myself, and a lot of time speaking with other folks. I mean, that's why it's one of the reasons why I opened this podcast. Um, but what brings me most joy in life is definitely that duality,
Hmm.
and spending time in nature drives me crazy, like it
Hmm.
really does, and admiring her creations, uh, us, the plants, the sun, the stars, the air, the wind, the mushrooms, the trees, the wood, the
Yeah.
ground. I the birds, they're singing. I can't believe it. Like
Mm.
it really it
Lights you
drives
up.
me crazy, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy, crazy. So
That
I
makes me
think,
want to go outside. Makes me want to be in nature a little bit. I love it.
yeah, yeah, I think that's what brings me most joy in life.
Awesome, bro.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
beautiful.
Ryan, thank you so much, brother, for today.
Brother, thank you. Appreciate you making it happen.
Yeah, I, I, whenever I have the studio here in Mexico City, which is not going to be this one, I have a really cool idea. I'll definitely would love to have a round two with you.
Let's do it. Would love that. That'd be great.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you,
brother.
Ryan.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
You too. Give me a second.